wanted to be here but couldn't, so he's interested in hearing what's being discussed. So I'm going to go ahead and start. So snow kiting is definitely like it's a derivative sport. In other words, people who come to snow kiting come to it from other disciplines. So for you, it's probably water kiting, and for me, it was actually an amazing discovery because I had grown up skiing in the mountains. And then when I moved to New England, I thought the ski areas were horrible and the snow was icy and everything just kind of sucked around skiing. So I was kind of hating the winter in a way, except when I could get away and fly out west or go to the Alps. And then, then I saw this picture, and it changed. It made me realize, oh my God, this is unbelievable. I've got to do this. Let's see if I can bring it up here. Yeah, I saw a picture, and this is a version of what I saw. I saw somebody in the mountains holding a kite and traveling through the landscape. And I thought, wow, this is something I absolutely need to do. So I got lucky enough to, at the time we had a website called Mass Kiting, and this guy named Bob had been doing this for years, and he was doing it all by himself, and he wanted people to do it with. So he would chime in and invite everyone to come to the lake with him. Hey, Willie, you made it.
Hey, yeah.
Awesome.
Pete. Was that Bob Christian?
Hey, John.
It was Bob Christian, yeah. So we got Pete. Now, Pete's also very, very experienced. So he's just here to drink the beer and hang out.
Pete.
Oh, yeah.
Peter's always got the good beer.
I got to go to the cooler. I'll be right back.
Yeah, go to the cooler.
I'm thinking the same thing.
So Bob, Bob brought me to the lake and showed me what to do, and it was amazing. So I'm doing this call today because I think that, there are probably a good number of people, and I see, 4 of them right here, who have an interest and are curious about this. But I'm glad you're on this call, because there are some things that that are different that you want to know about before you step onto the snowfield. So
I must say,
sorry,
Bob's a great resource. He lives a couple towns over from me, and he also showed me the ropes in snow kiting, which is great.
So we're awesome. So now we're trying to pay it forward. Like Bob gave us the favor, and now we're continuing the chain.
Wealth of knowledge.
And so as far as like going to the spot, so I'm going to just start by talking about what's different. So the main thing that's different is that the kite can easily get away from you, can easily just fly away, and now it's on the other side of the lake and you're screwed. So that's a main concern, is you want to be able to be cognizant of how to anchor the kite. And because the snow, generally the snow is not dense. I mean, it can be. There are days when the snow is very dense and you can use it like you use sand. But sometimes you go where there's about this much snow and it's all ice and the wind is screaming. And so at that point, the snow's doing nothing for you. All right. So the most important thing is to be cognizant of anchoring your kite. Now, one of the ways that I do it, that's like the low budget, simple way to do it, is to have your kite bag and you put like a gallon jug of water inside the kite bag. Or one time I forgot to bring that, and I found some rocks, and I used the rocks. I put them in the kite bag, and that kite bag then anchors the kite after you've blown it up, and you can anchor it that way. And what's nice about the kite bag is that once you've set up your lines and you're ready to clip in, what's going to happen is your kite's weighted down by the heavy kite bag, and then when you start to pull on the lines, that will shake the bag off of the bag, shake the bag off of the kite, and now your kite's flying. Because that's the other thing that you'll see that's very different about snow kiting from water kiting, is that typically, I mean, no one's launching anybody. People kind of launch themselves, because what happens is the wind is a little bit on land. The wind is a little bit irregular. So that means that it's not uncommon for the wind to completely drop off and then come back again. So a typical situation you find yourself in is that your kite's down. You know, it may be leading edge down or trailing edge down, but it's down, and then you have to relaunch it. So relaunching your kite from a down position is a very, very common occurrence. So when you're taking off, you don't really generally use an assist the way you would at the beach. But so like I said, what I do is I just put a weight on the kite, and then once I put tension on the lines, the weight falls off the kite, and then the kite starts to fly up, and I go.
So do you drift launch it, or you set it and put it in the wind window and then go back and launch it from there?
So what typically happens is the physics of it. Usually, the steady state that you find yourself in is that you are upwind of the kite is downwind of you, and the leading edge is on the ground. So the kite's upside down.
Yeah, you walk upwind, so you have so it's like you immediately are just basically drift launching, but you've walked upwind and leave the kite where it is.
Well, because the surface is so well lubricated, I'm just saying that, like, what happens is the steady state, the sort of where it falls into, you're just standing there, is the kite's dead downwind of you, and it's upside down. That's sort of where it wants to go if there's no impulse. There's no tweaking. All right. And so now you have to, get the kite to launch. So typically in that situation, there's a number of things you can do. What I typically do is I yank the bar one way, and then it travels a little bit. And then I yank the bar the other way, and it travels a little bit. And I yank the bar again, and it gets a little bit of momentum back and forth, and then eventually it flips. There's also another technique that some people like, which is called the reverse launch, where you have your bar and you grab the outside lines underneath the bar and you tug at it real hard, and that would raise the kite upside down, and then the kite will have a tendency at that point to flip and go straight up.
You let one side go, and then it flips.
But
that works with the foil kites very well.
I don't use the reverse launch that much. I usually just kind of do that sort of back and forth, give the kite some energy, and then it flies up. And once it flies up, depending on the strength of the wind, so right at that point is when you really tap into your sailing knowledge. And so you either want to give it some energy or you want to diffuse energy. So if it's very windy and you want to diffuse energy and you just did a hot launch, then you just ski right towards the kite and then make a turn. And that's pretty chill. On the other hand, if it's a light wind day and you're struggling to even keep the kite in the air, which is a lot of days, we prefer light winds, in fact. So a lot of days, the game is how do you get as much energy as you can out of the kite. And so when that happens, you as soon as the kite gets a little bit of air, then you dig your edge in and try to get some forward speed, some energy against some tension in the lines. You swing the kite around and get as much energy out of it as you can. And that's the beautiful thing about this sport that's different from water, is that you have very, very little resistance. Your skis are well waxed, your edges are well sharpened, and you are getting just a lot of glide. And so very quickly you're getting a lot of apparent wind, and you take off, and it's an amazing feeling. So you
can even skate to help to get that momentum going.
Yeah.
So 6 miles an hour is plenty of wind.
For snowboarding, is this also? I mean, obviously I can't skate snowboard, but
so the snowboarding question, that's an important one. So generally speaking, I would say that it's a lot harder to snow kite with a snowboard. You're just putting yourself up to a much, much bigger challenge. And as a beginner, it's really a bitch, because as you know, with snowboarding, you have to always be balancing on one edge or the other. And to do that, to manage that with dealing with a kite and all that, I've seen, a lot of people struggle. So skiing, you're far more agile because you've got 2 feet on the ground. It's easy to walk and reposition yourself in relationship to the kite. If
Easy
you're
to back up and tighten the lines.
and if you're in deep snow, you know what it's like when you're at a ski area on a snowboard and you hit some flat ground.
Yeah.
You know the kinds of bullshit you got to deal with, taking off your binding to move around, all that's very, very present when you're snow kiting. So I always think skiing is a better option. Having said that, I also know that a lot of people want snow kiting to be an emulation of water kiting. And so if you want the snow kiting experience to be very analogous to the water kiting experience, then snowboard is the way to go, because then you will be kind of, on that edge and doing the flip tricks and all that kind of thing. So it's and I know a lot of my friends who were snow kiting like 10 years ago, they wanted it to be like water kiting, and they all went on snowboards, and then they abandoned the sport. They were like, I hate snow kiting. It's a pain in the ass. I don't like it. So I think, the people that really kind of stick with it long term, most of the ones that I know are not boarding. There are a few guys that I know who snowboard with a snow kite, and they're incredibly talented, gifted. One guy, we call him the Kite Ninja. It's Ron Heppenstall. He's unbelievable, and he makes it look beautiful, easy, and simple and effortless.
But it doesn't have to be one or the other, John. In particular on thin snow days, you can kite ski with no snow on ice, or with 1 or 2 inches on ice, and you're fine on skis. On a snowboard, I think if you don't have 4 or 5 or 8 inches, it's a slog. But look, when at Ragnarok, 40% of the people are on snowboards, or 30%, but there's endless amounts of snow underneath you.
And Ragnarok,
you can mix it up.
Is experienced rider. So that, I guess what I'm saying is that snowboarding is something that it's something that's probably better to do if you're you're trying to learn with a snowboard. You're putting yourself up to a bigger.
I agree completely.
Got it. Okay.
All right. So, and then I mentioned this earlier too, the wind speed. So that's also a difference, I think, because we in the snow kiting sphere, we do enjoy light winds, whereas in kite surfing on the ocean, we don't really. Foiling is changing that a little bit, but high winds when you're snow kiting is scary. It's intense, and land-based winds are far more gusty and punchy. Mountain winds are insane. Like I was just at Squam Lake a few days ago, and it was like I went out and it seemed like it was 20 miles an hour and I was fine, and then suddenly, like 15 minutes into it, it just went to 40 sustained, and I was tied to the kite, and it was very uncomfortable. So when they're
always has very complex winds.
Yeah.
Because
and so
there are many islands.
For example, on Saturday, they're calling for this blizzard. So normally you're like, oh wow, it's going to be windy, let's go, right? That's how we operate on water, right? During the blizzard, no one's going to be snow kiting. We're all going to wait for the blizzard to go away, the winds to calm down, and then we're going to get that nice little sunny sort of northwest whip around, and then we'll be able to.
It's supposed to blow like stink, I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Hopefully the afternoon it'll die off.
But a few weeks ago, Gabe and I went out at Woodsum with a 4-meter fly surfer peak and a 6, and it was blowing 25 to 35, and I now have a 3. But those are pretty unique kites. And then there are a lot of people who prefer kind of grunty, small inflatables over foils when the winds get up, just because they're slower and more sluggish, which in those conditions can be a positive. And you can go to shorter lines too. And then there's a lot of people in snow kiting who who double up their lines, or 1.5 in light winds, because we do go with 6 to 10 8 miles an hour can be a tremendous experience. The wind, you will be going way faster than 8.
I carry 2 bars, 1 bar with extensions and then 1 bar, a regular bar. And if it's super light, throw on the extensions and it makes a world of difference. So when it's borderline, to get that foil up in the air, it helps.
We know
So-
what kites are.
All that to say that everyone has their own way to do it. So whatever George or Lee and then later on we're gonna hear from Whit, who's a winger. Everyone has their own sort of relationship to the sport and their own methods, their own approach. Like George brings a sled with a mountain of equipment because he just loves the gear, and he brings 5 kites to every session. And other people operate very differently. So everyone has their own way of expressing the sport, which is what makes it super fun too. Because you'll end up finding your niche in it. Like what is it that makes you? And like I said, for some people who came to it from water, they wanted to be like water, and it wasn't, and then they stopped because it wasn't enough like water. And so for me, it's a way to travel over wintry landscapes essentially, and to make turns with my skis. And I love to ski, but I hate ski areas. So making turns with my skis tied to a kite, I absolutely love it. And I know that that's what Pete Cat loves too. So now I'm going to move on to the question of safety. So there are some safety issues. So the biggest hazard, the thing that will potentially kill you pretty quickly, is if you fall through the ice. All right. So the ways to avoid that is you got to measure the ice thickness before you go. So by the time it's late January, like it is now, and we've had a very cold winter. We're always watching the temperatures, and it's been very cold for a number of weeks now. So the ice thickness is getting really good everywhere up north. And so how do you measure ice thickness? Most of what we do, and Whit mentioned this, I remember the other day, said mostly he follows what other people are doing, because there are some real ice scientists, people who love the ice and they watch it every day, and they're local and they're always measuring it. And so normally what we do is we talk to people who have measured it, and they tell us, yeah, it's safe. No, it's not. And if you want to measure it yourself, that's really good to do. So the way I do it is that I actually bought an ice screw, which is a piece of climbing gear. And an ice screw is a nice piece of equipment to have for more than measuring ice. It's good for anchoring your kite. I was telling you about using this weight bag. That's one way of anchoring your kite. But another way is to drive an ice screw into the ice, and then you tie a piece of webbing to it, and then you can clip onto the
Carabiner.
bridle. And so, but the ice screw will also tell you what the ice thickness is. So you just want to be aware of that. And the other thing that's going to be helpful for ice safety is to come onto the ice with these things called ice picks. So you wear them around your neck. There they are. George is showing them, and they're sold to ice fishermen. So I wear them around my neck if I think the ice is sketchy. If I'm not worried about the ice, I ditch them. But I know a guy who goes on ice all winter long, and he's just by a matter of course, he's always has his life jacket on and his ice picks, even though we're into February and the ice is 2 feet thick. He's still into it.
Yeah, I've
Know
seen them.
anybody who ever used them?
I've never had to use them.
No, but do you know anybody who had to?
We know someone who died in Canada.
Yeah, somebody drowned in Canada a couple of years ago. Yeah, and they have been going swimming in New Hampshire. Absolutely. Yeah.
Another strategy for that is when on either end of the season, if you really think it's sketchy, you could always wear your dry suit if you have one. And it wouldn't be that much. It wouldn't be any more uncomfortable than in the water.
If
I know
my rule of
it
thumb
sounds
would be, if
nutty.
you have to use the ice picks, you're fucked. It's good to have them, but
And I would say the same
stay
thing
away
about the
from
dry
open
suit.
water.
I would say the same thing. If you're wearing a dry suit, you're making some bad choices.
Yeah.
It's good safety, but you're fucked. If someone's not around who's got a lot to pull you out,
Yeah.
don't go out if it's skinny ice.
Yeah. Don't go out. And so for example, one good spot near here that we have hyperlocal is called Lake Quannapowick. Gets a really good fetch on a prevailing northwest wind. So that lake right now is probably good, but I think Whit maybe knows more about the thickness there. Maybe he can fill us in.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I was there actually for a little while this afternoon. I had a window to be out there, and yeah. So I should have taken some more photos, but it's been scouted by several of the iceboard windsurfers. Those are a crowd that scouts out the ice a lot, and also the ice boaters. And but well, I'll just tell you. I mean, the current situation at Quannapowick is that there is a lot of section there that's probably 4 to 6 inches, which is supportable. But there is I launched from that section, the Quannapowick Yacht Club, which is on the western shore, and several, probably 30 yards offshore, there is a pretty large section of open water, and so that's just something to be aware of. And I was out at Massapoag and Sharon, Mass the other day. That's got a section of open water. So if you're comfortable being out in conditions with that. I used to be really sort of scared about that, but now I know enough that the plate of ice can be supportable even with sections of open water. But you got to be extra careful, of course, if you're blown downwind. And so, like for example, today I was out on skates on the wing blades with a wing, and it was a northwest wind, and I was always to the the downwind side of that section of open water. So and there were 3 other ice windsurfers out there, and we were all sort of staying together. And I put my screw in a few places to just see. I mean, the ice, like I said, my guess, I couldn't tell exactly, but probably at least 4 to 6 inches, if not more, in most of the structures. So yeah, so that's sort of a update on that.
Oh, I wanted to add to that that if you go to Quannapowick, let's say on Sunday, after a snow event, that could be more hazardous just because the snow could hide any areas that are not
But Jean, Quabog has, we park on the middle of the northern shore? The northeast corner where the water comes in, that is often open.
Yeah.
So if you see slushy snow, just stay away. And then Bob, he was saying that, look, Tully has an inlet and an outlet.
Yeah.
Any place that has an inlet and an outlet, just stay away from those areas.
Okay, so I wanted to correct your statement about slushy snow, though.
Okay.
Which is important, which is that what happens is, a lake that has a pretty good ice sheet on it, the ice sheet might be 6, 10, 12 inches or whatever. And then what happens is like this weekend, we're going to get a foot of snow. So the snow is going to rest on top of the ice sheet. And that's going to create a lot of weight, and it's going to push the ice sheet down against the water that it's resting on. And then when that happens, the water is getting compressed, and then it shoots up the sides of the lake. So it's not unusual for a lake that has a very solid ice sheet to have pretty nasty slushy conditions, typically near the shore. And that does not necessarily mean that you're looking at an unsafe ice situation, normally because of the ice.
And
Pretty
from the
often-
ice fishing holes.
Yeah.
Pretty often the whole lake can be very slushy with heavy snow on top of it.
So
And then those wheeled vehicles will create a mess in it, and then it'll freeze.
So do you guys have any questions about the ice safety thing before I move on?
One thing I wanted to mention is that often the ice near shores can have water, especially if there are docks with circulators. There can be a lot of open water near shores.
Yeah, a lot on Lake Winnipesaukee. They have aerators or pumps to keep the docks from freezing. So you want to be careful going near the edges. A lot of these homeowners will put the pumps there and they'll keep the water open. I found in Vermont, I went to a couple lakes I didn't know anything about. Also, a great resource is the fishermen on the lakes. I've gone up to them. Generally, most of them will be pretty responsive when you just ask them about the conditions or where to go. They know the ice pretty good, the locals. And I've had good luck in Vermont with guys like that.
So for lakes with no inlets and outlets, I've read somewhere that 3 days of freezing temperatures, somewhere on Google, that 3 days of freezing temperatures, consistent freezing temperatures, is enough for a thick ice layer. Is that a reasonable rule of thumb, or is there another sort of rule of thumb if there's not an active boat or car driving on the ice?
The real, I think, I'm not sure if this is the answer to your question, but I would say that to establish safety of ice, it's all about the thickness. You have to measure the thickness, and you do it either with an ice screw, or some people do it with like a pole that has a sharp a sharp point on it, and they strike it a couple times and they're able to tell how thick the ice is. That's really the measure. You know, if you're looking at temperature, that's just giving you a general idea, but it won't really give you the kind of confidence you really need. So for example, there's a lake near my son's house in Woburn, and it's probably good snow kiting material, but I really wouldn't go on it without measuring the ice first. Or, you know, if you're seeing people skating on it, then, you know, it's all good.
A good sign is
Yeah.
when there are lots of fishermen's pop-up, whatever they're called. On the
Even
lake.
better is when they're cars and trucks.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm at that. Skaters are no smarter than other people. They fall through too.
Tully had on Sunday about 5 people fishing. There are a few people cross-country skiing on it. It's relatively safe there. It's been pretty cold, so you can be sure that it's going to be okay.
Yeah, and then the other big factor, this is an important thing. The other big factor as far as ice safety is concerned is the size of the lake. So if you look at a lake like Sunapee, for example, or Lake Champlain, they freeze over last because they're so large. And so you don't, in the early season, you stay on the small ponds that are shallow. And then as the season wears on, you know, Lake Champlain might be okay now. I mean, Pete Cap might be able to tell us more, but
Sandbar definitely is.
yeah.
Oh, good.
So, and I think Sunapee just became good, and
Yeah.
and we're Sacandega's probably is definitely good now. So that's the other thing. Early season, you stay on the small ponds, shallow small ponds. All right. So I'll just say a couple more things, and then we'll just either open it to questions, or if some things, if there are other things that more experienced writers want to talk about. And then we also want to discuss, we'll give Whit the floor for him to talk about the winging aspect, which I think is a very interesting story. So I'll just finish up by saying that one of the things I like doing when I snow kite is I like having my phone on me, and I like to record my positions. So there's a couple of apps that do that. You guys are athletes. You probably use maybe Strava, or another one called My Tracks that seemed pretty good. There's a bunch of different ones. And it's a nice thing to do when you're riding. It'll tell you your peak speed and show you exactly where you went.
I use a watch for that.
Yeah, watches are the best. Yeah, I just don't happen to have one, but that's a great. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to just talk about a little bit is with the kite. So I think George mentioned it a little bit. Basically, you know, the kites that you have for kiting on the water are going to be very, very good on the ice. Now, the question often becomes, you know, for the same wind strength, do you use a smaller kite or a bigger kite when you're on snow than you would on water? And the answer to that is that it has everything to do with the surface. So if the surface is very fast, meaning like not much snow, mostly ice, you can hold an edge, but you're just going super fast, then you're going to go with a smaller kite. You're going to go kind of like what you would do with a foil board. You're going to use a 9-meter kite in 15 miles per hour, and you're going to absolutely fly. It's going to be amazing. Now, I've had sessions this winter when it was kind of deep snow. And in that instance, I had to go, in a 15-mile-an-hour wind, I needed the 12-meter kite and maybe even more. Like if the snow, like on Sunday, if the snow is super heavy, you're going to need a lot of power to get through it. So, so the water-based, the tube, we call them tube kites, are certainly good for snow kiting. I really like them. They hold a rigid shape. I think they have a lot of attributes that, to me, are preferable. Having said that, it turns out that for most people who are very focused on the sport of snow kiting and less on water kiting, they prefer what we call foil kites. So they prefer these kites that you don't have to inflate, that don't have an inflatable, they don't have the bladder, and they inflate by the wind. And there are many different designs. George owns every design that there is.
Inflatable as well.
From 2000, the year 2000. And the inflator, the foil kites are perfectly good. I find them somewhat annoying because they need a lot of babysitting. In other words, they can lose their shape. They get into the tangle. If the wind is squirrely, I remember even Leo being the kite champion that he is, he spent a lot of time untangling his lines when he was kiting at Tully Lake when the wind was very irregular and squirrely and all over the place. You don't have to worry about that with the tube kite. The tube kite holds its shape and it's more predictable. So on the flip side, if you have a very steady breeze, which some of our spots do have that, like Lake Sunapee, for example, if you have a steady breeze and it's a fairly light steady, the foil kites are going to do better because they're going to blow up like a parachute and be extremely light and just keep you going and give you all that apparent wind that you want. And you're not going to, the foil kites weigh so much less than the tube kites. The tube kites are like bricks compared to foil kites. So it's just a different technique, and it's not for a beginner, who comes from water kiting. You don't have to go and buy the foil kites. You'll do very well with what you have, and over time maybe you will get tempted and buy extra toys, and so that's sort of my attitude about it. Now, the incredible benefit of foil kites is if it's blowing 8 miles per hour, you can go 20-25 miles an hour, and it's an incredible feeling. You can't do that with.
And I use both. I like both of them. So they all have their advantages and disadvantages. But
I agree with that.
good.
And the foil kites are more expensive. They're just finicky. They're a little bit. It's a whole
Oh,
thing.
enough ragging on the foil kites.
I'm gonna learn to love them. I'm gonna learn to
Okay.
love them.
Give me 5 minutes on 3 minutes on the foil kites.
Yeah.
So, back when Rachel used to have the kite storm on Champlain, on the Sundays, we'd all be out there waiting for the wind to come up. And the first kites to go up would be the fly surfers, followed by the ozones, followed by the Peter Lynn arcs, all ram air kites. And then when the wind picked up a little bit more, the inflatables could go. So what we learned is with the ram air inflatables, foil kites, if you have a leaf blower and you pre-inflate the kite, you can launch in virtually nothing. In like 1 mile an hour, take 2 steps back, it'll launch. But
Especially if you have good skating technique.
yes,
Yeah.
and Leo has very good skating technique. And also when you take off, when you do your loop to go, you can, with any kite, you can skate away with your downwind ski just to build up your speed to get that apparent wind. And the coolest thing about snow kiting is when it is windy and you send the kite through the window on a drive, you have never accelerated that fast on a pair of skis on a mountain, or on the water, frankly. The way you just come flying out in the other direction, heading upwind, is turbocharged. It's really great. And yeah, so foils are a little difficult, but once you get over how to deal with the bridles, which can take, upwards of 27 years, you're fine. And the
Great.
new foils that are single skins, the Peak, the Fly Surfer Peak 4 and Peak 5, that only have one side, and they have weed whacker line to give them shape so that they don't collapse. They really are super light. And so this past weekend, Leo and I were on Sunapee. I have a beautiful Fly Surfer Soul 18, which flies in hardly any wind. And I was having trouble. It was only blowing like 3. I put up an 11-meter Peak 4, and Leo and I both used it, and were able to generate significantly more power than that already really light 18. So
the wind was gusting 5 miles per hour, I think.
Yeah, that was the gusts. But
Wow.
but it's all of this is good, and it's got so much variety. And a super fun thing to do with kids is to take a 2 or 3 meter kite on ice and sled straight downwind, and you will go so fast. It's so silly. It's completely safe. You fall out of your sled, you're an inch above the ice already. And you get to go to all these beautiful spots. I've had a blast doing it.
All right, so so now I guess we can move over to. I know that Jed was particularly interested in the wing aspect.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what Whit's got to tell us.
Yeah, so he's been waiting patiently to hear from Whit. So let's get the wing perspective.
Sure. Yeah, I'll give some scoop on the wings. Well, so first of all, like the inflatable wings I've used, and rigid wings. So the rigid wings are manufactured by there's a company called Kite Wing, and then there's also a newer one called Velocity Wing. And so those are the rigid wings that you would only use on snow and ice. You would not use those on the water. But the inflatable wings that people are using for wing foiling, those cross over very nicely to using with skates and skis. And so one thing that I've done a lot of is to do it with skis on hard surfaces, so either hard packed snow or ice, with straight edge skis. And as John and others have mentioned, right, you could obviously do that with kites too. But then the advantage of using a wing is that it's a little safer, it's a little more compact, and if you've ever windsurfed, it's a similar feeling to that. And it's also, you can go in higher winds. At least I've been more comfortable. Like I'm about 150 pounds. I mean, if I'm on a frozen lake, I am very hesitant to fly a kite if it's blowing 20 or higher. I mean, I just think that's riskier, and so I'll use my 4.2 meter F1 swing wing, or I've got another 5.2 meter wing, and those are really fun for cruising around, especially the big lakes like the Winnipesaukis and Sunapees, when they've got supportable ice and when they've got really fast surfaces. And
Do you have both, Whit? Do you have both inflatable and the rigid?
Oh, the rigid. I used to have one rigid wing. I owned a Kite Wing, a 5.5 meter, but I sold it last winter, or I think it was over the summer. But in part because when I got into wing foiling, I started using the inflatables on ice. I just felt like those for me were like good enough. And the only advantage of using the rigid wings, I think, is that when it's really windy, like a 3.0 Kite Wing is high perform. I mean, the rigid kite wings and the velocity wings are higher performance. You'll go a little faster because they're rigid, and you can hang your body weight on them with a harness more easily, or more more easily. I mean, I still use a harness with my inflatable wings all the time on the ice, but it's the inflatable wings have a little more give to them. They've got that wide leading edge, so it's kind of. But again, I think, I don't feel like I'm giving up much performance. And I just found like, yeah, that 5.5 kite wing I had, I would use that when maybe, let's say like a fast surface and the wind was like, maybe 10 to 15 or something. But now I'll just use my 5.2 inflatable wing, and it's virtually the same thing in my view. So
I have the 3.0 kite wing for that 30-mile-an-hour day.
that's a really good. If I ever got another one, that's the one I'd get, George. Like that's a really nice wing. So for the high winds. And so then let me describe this too. So the other nice thing about using the wings on ice is that you can use them with skates, and so you can use them with hockey skates, with Nordic skates, and also with what we're calling the wing blades, which are the sort of the higher performance, heavy duty blades that stand several inches off the ground, and you use ski boots with them. And I bought some a few years ago. Some of the New Hampshire snow kite people bought them from a guy named George Peterson up in Canada, and they are also manufactured in Sweden. They are, I mean, they're just a little more heavy duty, but the advantage of those versus normal hockey skates or Nordic skates is that they sit so much higher off the ground, so you can kind of plow right through rougher ice, or even an inch of snow. If it's a soft snow, you can plow right through it. But anyway, I mean, when I was out at Massapoag, another wing foil guy that lives there was out with, he was out on hockey skates with an inflatable wing and having a blast. I mean, if the ice surface is good or anything close to black ice, then any sort of skate will do. And the nice thing again about the wings is you kind of go as fast as you want to go, and anytime you get unstable or nervous, you just let the thing go and depower it. That's the other nice thing about it. Just take a break. And and then the final piece about the inflatable wings that I like is that it's a little bit of insurance policy, right? Because if you do fall through the ice, it's kind of, you've got that inflatable thing to hold on to. So it does mitigate a little bit of risk. So those are some thoughts. So, and I think maybe people had asked about this in the chat room too, but I've never, I mean, if the snow is deeper powder or to get going with a wing is going to be tougher. I mean, again, if it's super high winds, you could do it, but usually if it's powder snow, you're going to want to use a kite. So.
Right. So that's an important thing to consider, is that in the light wind scenario, the wing kind of falls off. And in the high wind scenario, the kite becomes more of a liability, and the wingers are sort of winning the day. So
I had a question about I can totally see how wings and ice, such low friction blades ripping along, but in snow and skis, it's a lot of heavy gear. And are you often winging with skis and snow, or once you get going, it's like friction's gone, or are you dragging all that crap through the snow with a wing?
That's need a bigger wing.
Yeah.
or stronger forearms. That's what I'm worried about. I guess I don't have a harness for my wing, but
yeah, well, I mean, I just remember a couple times last winter, I think it was Winnipesaukee, but it was sort of a hard packed surface, and we were out there with the straight edge skis and the and wings, and but yeah, I mean, you could really move, and there wasn't much resistance, and yeah, I mean, the wind those days was probably like 15 to 25 or something, so it was definitely windy, and you could get away with a small wing and really be moving along.
Yeah, you're sitting up on top of hardpack, but if you're in 6 inches of fresh and you're breaking tracks with skis, it's probably a little more grunt you got to pull through.
Yeah, no, that's right, and especially if it's softer snow or wet snow. Yeah.
Then you wish you had your kite to.
Yeah. Well, then you have to have I would have to, because I couldn't pull myself through that. But
Hey, Whit, I have a question about those wing blades. Does anybody sell them these days?
Yes.
Well, the guy George Peterson up in Canada, I believe he still sells them. Although I had heard somebody mention maybe that he stopped selling them. I think he still is.
I talked to when I spoke with him yesterday, or emailed with him. So he had quit, And then and I said, well, if you ever plan on doing it again, or could I just buy the blades from you? Because I could make the rest of it. And he emailed me yesterday saying that, was I interested in a complete set? So if any of you are interested, it's george.peterson@simpatico.ca, or, or ask on the chat and we'll tell you. But he does seem to be willing to make them again, and they're $465, so they're not cheap. But Wit's a pro on them.
Yeah, no, they're great. I mean, like today at Quanta Powered, I mean, I hit 35 miles an hour and the wind was blowing probably, well, it was 10 to 20. So, it was gusting up to 20 probably, but you really fly with those things. And I just find the advantage of being able to wear your ski boots with them is nice, because I just get a little nervous with normal skates with the ankle being more free, or just, I know there are different skates that have more rigid ankle support and everything, and some people swear by the Nordic skates and they love those. But again, those are going to have a harder time pushing through rough ice, whereas these things are just plow right through.
What other pads do you wear when you're out there? I want to go on my full outfit.
That's a good question. Hi guys.
Hey, Mike.
John,
pads,
by the way,
pads,
John,
pads.
what a great idea, John.
You're welcome.
Always leading the pack. Great idea. I was going to ask the same question about pads. By the way, I was at Sunapee today, and it's frozen solid, but I skied. So, you could still ski. It cost me $60. I made 20 runs.
Selling it.
And we had a blast. The conditions were really good, but the lake was solid. There were all kinds of fishermen. I did not see any kites, and there were no people. There was no lines. But I was going to ask what Willie said. What do you guys wear for pads? Because I did ski patrol at Killington, and I know what can happen when you fall. So do you wear elbows width? Do you wear knee pads? Do you wear?
Yeah.
I mean, even like your hips. Like if you fall on the ice, you could break your hip. Do you wear
Mike,
any protection?
I have a set of underwear with protection, but I usually don't wear it.
Like
it's
bicycle
literally,
shorts, right?
it has protection everywhere, on elbows, knees, back.
Like like I could wear my hockey equipment and then feel very good, Leo, because you protect your ass, you protect your knees, you protect your elbows, your head.
Well, there was a day. So I wear definitely, obviously, a helmet, and then I do elbow pads and knee pads, and that's sort of what I've done if I'm on the ice. And but there was a day last winter at Quanta Powered where several of the not the ice boats, it was the ice board windsurfers, and those guys, they'll go 50, 60 plus. So a couple of the guys were putting on all the hockey gear and like shoulder pads, knee pads, everything, including midsection and the ice. And those guys also often are wearing motorcycle helmets, again, just for safety. And
you go fly. I ice boated as a kid around you. You hit the ice, and it's not always smooth.
Hard.
There's a chunk of frozen block or something. You hit that, it's like running into a block of concrete.
That hurts. It hurts. Yeah.
Hey guys, this is super helpful and super awesome, but I got to jump. So thank you so much for putting it together, and maybe I'll check out the recording and see what I missed. But
take care,
Jed.
Jed.
Everybody.
We'll see you out there.
Thank you.
So Mike, when I started with the MIT guys, Tim Anderson, who was from Minnesota, he had homemade ice picks, 2 dowels with nails in them, but he definitely wore hockey shorts. And when I one wheel, I put foam pads on my hips, because for us younger guys like you and me, the hip bone has no meat above it.
Well, I brought people down the mountain with, tib fibs, broken, tibias, and every bone in your body. I brought them down through the woods, and it hurts. I just don't want to go through that.
Well, also I have that green helmet of mine with the chin bar and the red one that I use for foiling from fear of the wing. But Chris Krug, who's one of the fastest kite skiers, he's always had a chin bar. You know, it's
Yeah.
particularly on icy days. You know, icy days are definitely.
I see high wind days. Chris
Yeah,
takes out the
you
full
can-
helmet.
Yeah.
You can.
So,
I mean,
it's really hard.
I've seen Whit on his skis with the wing, and it's amazing how fast he goes on the snow. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it looks like a lot of fun, and does it feel like you're on a windsurfer, Whit?
Yeah, I was mentioning it earlier, Mike, that it definitely has that windsurfing feel, and you know, it's with the safety, I was mentioning one of the advantages of the wing versus the kite is it is a little safer.
Yeah.
So, but
You can
really
spill the
move.
wind completely with the
Yeah.
wing.
Yeah, so one thing I wanted to add to all that is that basically some of us, myself included, we don't really go if it's going to be ice, you know, and some people love the ice. But for me, it makes me feel very unstable and unsafe. So I just stay away from it. So for example, today, Bob went to this lake and the snow hadn't adhered. And so it was just glare ice and he just walked away from it, even though the wind was fine. So that's one thing. The other thing I wanted to add is, I didn't mention this, which is the skis. You really want skis with very little side cut. So the skis that were made for turning down a mountainside, those are not ideal, because when you're going across the surface, and if the ski has a lot of side cut, you'll be bouncing quite a bit. So it turns out, you know, in about 20, 30 years ago, there was a big innovation in the ski industry where they discovered, from emulating snowboarders, they discovered that if you made the width of the ski a lot less under the foot and a lot wider at the tips and tails, people could just lean on the side and make a great turn. And so when and it really did completely made every ski before that obsolete. So everyone has, many people have in their basement these skis that they haven't gotten rid of that are just considered obsolete because they have no side cut. They're perfect for snow kiting. So if you can find a binding and a boot to go on it, you've got a great snow kiting ski.
Does that apply to snowy days too, or just like the firm, edgy days where you don't want to cut an edge? I'm envisioning like if like Sunday, you're going out there and like 6 inches, hopefully somewhere, like side cut doesn't matter as much.
If you kite in powder, you want powder skis.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fat.
I only kite in powder. Sorry, that's just my limitation.
If you kite on ice, you want. If you kite on ice, you want racing GS or downhill skis.
I get that. The big blade.
They work great. You're on rails.
Yeah,
you
so
can go on glare ice.
I can't do skis on glare ice.
It sounds nutty, but in 2019, I was trying to get ready to go to Ragnarok, and I had this 18-meter brand new kite. I'm like, you gotta fly it once before you go. So I went to Winnipesaukee, and I just had barely shaped skis. It was blowing 20. I put the kite up. I was going like a bat out of hell, and I was drag racing this ice boat. We had a great time. And then we stopped and chatted, and I saw Chris Krug out there on a 9-meter, and he was going way faster than me.
Yeah.
But I thought it was not doable. I'd gone up a month earlier, seen it was glare ice, and turned around and went home. It is perfectly doable.
My first lesson with Chris Krug, we were out on a lake and it was ice. And I looked at the ice and I said to him, as skiers, New England skiers, we always stay away from this stuff. He goes, oh, you'll be fine. And I got out there with a kite, small kite, went across. I couldn't believe how much, without sliding, how much I held an edge and went across the lake, and I was hooked. I was like, okay, this is really
It'll
good.
work.
And it does. And I had straight skis and they were great.
What happens if you fall, guys?
It hurts.
Go forever.
Like you do, right? I mean, how do you get back up, or how do you stop?
It's hard to get back up.
Problem.
Usually you have to pop off a ski to get back
And then
up.
another ski, and then you have to walk up
and then you stand
ski
up,
boots on glare ice.
and then you relaunch. Put your
I mean,
skis on
I
before
can't-
you relaunch.
right. I can't imagine popping off a ski on ice because, you know, when we'd be at Killington, and somebody would be at outer limits or whatever, and I'd say, do not take off your skis because if you take off your skis, you have no edge.
Yeah, but your pitch is so much more. You're just you don't
Right.
have the pitch to fight with.
But you also don't have a kite pulling you.
Yeah, but you can fly the kite up high. Yeah, there are just times when you can't. Although normally you stand up like you do a water start in the water.
But you're also saying that this is in 5 knots, 10 knots. We're not talking.
No. I'm
20.
saying in 20. I'm saying in 20. It was sketchy as hell.
20 knots at 20 knots at black ice, and you are going 5
with an
miles
18
until
with
the
an
shore.
18
Right. Exactly. Right.
You're flying.
Yeah, in plastic ski boots on black ice, which have no edge. No.
Yeah.
That's when you pull out. That's
I
when you
mean,
pull out the spikes.
I saw a guy at the top of outer limits. He took his skis off because he decided it was too icy, so he was going to walk down, and he slid down the mountain, went over like 5 bumps, and broke both hips.
Oh fuck!
You know?
I lost the skis.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's not likely to happen. I can see the fear of it. And then I also think little minor accessories like yak tracks and micro spikes. These
I
are the
think
micro
you need
spikes.
those when you're hiking on the mountain, going up and down.
but they're good to hike out on an icy day.
After you eject your skis. After you eject your skis when you fall, you get into your backpack, you get the yacht tracks out, you put them on your boots, and then you can stop your slide and get
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'd put the yak tracks on my elbows and drag my elbows.
Yeah, no, that's when you pull out the ice picks and do the.
Oh no, that's when you pull out.
George thinks that the more gear you bring, the better off you are.
Yeah, there's more things.
I think the bullfighters bandoleros would be good for that.
I have a little bit of different take on all this stuff. If you go kiting on terrain, if you go far, then the best thing is to use a touring setup. You need skis with skins that you can poles, attach poles to your backpack. So if the wind dies, you can walk out with skis.
Good idea.
Skins. And the other thing I learned on the opposite end of spectrum, on the ice, I skied a lot on the ice last year. I would always put another kite in my backpack.
Yeah, smaller one.
Usually a smaller. And a couple of times I went to a smaller kite because it was just too much wind.
Well, and that also brings up the importance of I usually carry an ice screw, or I have 2 ice screws, one for when you're setting up and to help you set up.
Yeah, I do exactly the same.
The second, if you got to go switch kites in the middle of the lake somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. So you take this out. This goes on around the side or belt, and I've got 2 of them. I take one out, put it in. Now I've got a leash. I've got a brake line on my kite. I just attach that or attach the safety to it. Okay, now the kite's stable. Now I can figure out, get up, switch kites, get a smaller kite, but now I got an anchor point. Easy to carry an extra one. So if I'm on Lake Winnipesaukee or I plan to go a distance, having that anchor point is key. I've used it.
You always need a nice screw on ice.
Yeah.
Or on hard pack.
It's easy to carry.
That's a must, especially with the foil kite, because it can tangle, and then you need to anchor it, untangle, do all this stuff. Or if you just need to park it for a while.
Yep.
Yeah, so 2 ice screws is a good thing to have.
I usually don't leave anything at the put in, just put everything in the backpack and go. But yeah, sometimes if there's stuff at the start, I screw there and another one.
Well,
take with me.
I do the sleds with the gear, and because I'm used to taking gear for like half of my family and 4 nephews and nieces. But if you do that, 2 sleds is way better than 1 because they won't fall over. And it's definitely a good idea to take a second kite out onto the lake, because to walk all the way back across the lake back to your car to get the other kite, that's a real buzzkill.
I learned it from Martin, who he goes every day in all kinds of conditions.
That's true. And he's always got his backpack.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to ask for at the beginning, John, you mentioned for the self-launch, you start with your leading edge down. I just wanted to have a better picture in my head of getting set up. So it sounds like to start, you'd have your leading edge pointing into the wind like normal when you set up on the beach, and then you'd anchor your bar with your bag, and then you'd walk it downwind and then set it down. Or how do you get it from stable by itself to downwind of you without getting pulled or something?
Yeah, so let me clarify that. So what you do is you pump up the kite, and then once you've pumped the kite down, you put it down the way you would normally at the beach. Then the big difference is that you don't have any sand, and you probably don't have any snow, because we're talking about, maybe these lakes that just have a little bit of ice on them and some snow cover that still allows you to hold an edge. I don't recommend going kiting on glare ice. I know a lot of people here do, but I don't find it particularly fun. So anyways, you don't have anything to anchor the kite down with. So you take a weight bag with you. So you take a gallon of water, for example, you put it into your kite bag, and then you put the weight bag on top of the leading edge, of the inflatable leading edge. That will prevent the kite from flying away. Then you can set up your lines. Okay. Then once your lines are set up, what you do is you clip on your skis. This is important. You have to clip on your skis first. So that's another big distinction between water kiting and whereas in water kiting, you raise the kite and then you put the board under your feet once you hit the water. In this case, you put your skis on so that you've got an edge to hold on to. Then you grab the bar, you clip in, all right? And then once you put tension on the lines, then what will happen is that the weight bag will fall off of the kite, and then the kite will rotate and end up dead downwind of you, upside down. Does that clarify it?
So are you in this scenario though? Are you setting up your lines downwind? On the beach, I usually set my lines up downwind. So then you walk around in a circle until you're upwind, and then the kite slides down, or no?
All right. So what I do is I'm like you. No, I'm not like you. What I do is I always set my lines upwind of the kite. And the reason I do that is, I'm sorry. The bar is downwind of the kite. The bar is downwind of the kite. So I put the bar upside down, and then I connect the lines. I find that to be an important step because it prevents fouling of the lines.
Right.
Now you're downwind of the kite, and then that's the benefit of having skis on your feet, because then if you can then travel, one direction or the other to put the kite in the power window.
Okay, perfect. That makes sense. Yeah, thank you.
Well, so I do it similarly, but I have a bunch of these bags, but really more about this size, that are just plastic and tarp, and they're sand, and they each weigh about 5 pounds. And I probably have 4 of them. So I put them on the bottom edge of a foil kite, and I set it up at 45 degrees to the wind. But for an inflatable, I put them on the upwind tip, just like you would do at the beach. And you power up the kite and the bag falls off and off you go. But I find the sandbags, what's nice about the sandbags is they work in glare ice. They also work in super powdery snow that you try and put it on your kite and it doesn't do anything. So, and that's the reason for the sleds, because the sandbags weigh a shitload. So I don't want to carry them.
Another
And then
piece of,
when you get stuck in the snow, like the first day I went up to Joe's Pond to meet Jean and Martin, you slice open one of these bags and you get out.
hey, another piece of equipment that's really nice to have when there's snow is a shovel, like this kind of shovel. I use foil kites exclusively, and I just put snow on the trailing edge, have the kite downwind and hot launch it.
Yeah, that's how I always do it. I just bring a shovel and just shovel a shit ton of snow on the kite instead of weighing it down with the bag or anything.
If you have enough snow on that ice.
If there happens to
Yeah,
Well,
if you're on ice,
If
you
there's
just,
not
you
enough
know,
snow, it's probably not a day I'm snow kiting.
And then to tell the surface, you just ask around. Like there isn't like there aren't blogs for snow cover on lakes. I assume you just ask people.
There's a website, I've seen a few people posting on some of these, like Facebook does have some good, like there's a Nordic skating or New England, Maine and New Hampshire skating groups and things like that I subscribe to, or so people will sometimes post photos. But then I've also seen a few people post, I think it's called, if you Google like Sentinel Hub, so SENTINEL, Sentinel Hub, and I forget if it's run by NOAA, but you can kind of, I've done this a couple times, you can kind of fish out like a couple of their websites, and these are satellite imageries that get updated. I think it might only be once a week, but they do give you some indication of, especially like early in the season, which lakes are frozen, or at least frozen to some extent. Again, we don't know the depth, but they at least tell you a little bit about conditions. So yeah, otherwise, yeah, it's sort of more asking around and just following the weather patterns and actually going and scouting stuff out. Yeah.
So Philip, one more thing. I put in the chat, I put in a link to a map, and it shows you the snow cover. And let me show you, let's see if I can share my screen here somehow. Yeah. So I like this map a lot. And so can you guys see that?
Not yet. Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
now we do.
It's updated every day.
Oh, wow.
And it really tells you what's going on with the snow cover. So that's the first thing I
cool.
look at for knowing where I'm going to go. And then after that, I look at the National Weather Service to determine, they give you like a wind. They're pretty good at telling you what the wind's going to be like 1 or 2 days out. Beyond 2 days, it's a real guessing game. And there are plenty of weather models that will give you information, but it's not terribly accurate.
But John, you and Whit and Pete Cat, and I don't know the others, you kind of know the sequence of which lakes freeze first, or like, for instance, Tully is way colder than Quabog.
Yeah,
and they're not that
it's-
far apart.
A good enough distance where Tully will freeze. It's more near the New Hampshire border, and you go down to Quabog, and you're down below Worcester. So there can be a big difference.
Big difference.
But John, would you say that the first pond you ski on is Joe's up in near St. Johnsbury, and then where do you go next? Or Whit?
Yeah, I mean Tully. I guess Tully was the only lake I went to after Joe's Pond. Yeah.
Yeah, I sort of follow, what Martin Kimball's doing up in New Hampshire. I mean, because he's the reason I know about Joe's Pond. And then, I mean, there were the like Wakawan Lake, which is near Winnipesaukee. That sometimes freezes over earlier because it's a smaller lake. I remember once going out with Martin and some people at White Oak Pond, which is near Squam. Again, it's a smaller lake. But that's kind of, and then eventually Squam tends to be the first of the big ones to freeze. It will Squam and Sunapee. Sunapee is further south, but it's got elevation. Sunapee is like 1,000 feet above sea level, I think.
And then east of Winnipesaukee, they'll jump on Wentworth.
Oh yeah,
which tends to
Wentworth. Yep.
freeze. Yeah.
Yep.
And Sunapee is nice in that it's on the way home from so many other places. if you just went skiing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then Pete Cat, when does Sandbar it's amazing because I've been there in all kinds of conditions, but one year it was black ice with big marbly chunks of white ice. And what's amazing is I didn't realize there is a sandbar about 150 yards out, and up to the sandbar is only about 3 feet deep. So if you went through the ice and sandbar, you could walk home. But so maybe that's why it freezes early.
Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah.
why sandbar is always the first to go, because it's so shallow for in some places almost half mile out. It's only like 4 or 5 feet deep.
Oh, okay.
Where else do you go in that area?
I mean, I haven't snow kited up there that much, but Shelburne Pond is another one pretty close to Burlington that'll freeze over even before sandbar.
Sandbar. I've had great times on Shelburne.
So that's one of the earlier ones to go in the Burlington area.
Well, then, another topic that we could discuss is the beer related to snow kiting. Because right near Shelburne is Fiddlehead Brewery. The Alchemist is in Stowe. The Treehouse is near Quabog.
Okay.
What others?
Well, the Quabog has a brewery
Yeah.
on the far side.
Yeah, I went to that the other day, Oakholm Brewery.
Yeah,
It was-
how's that?
It's pretty good. I mean, I got a couple of the I like the wheat beers, so they had a really good wheat beer I brought home with me, and yeah, I didn't stick around. They had some live music happening. They had a little food truck. I mean, it's a cool little operation.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it. I've been meaning to check it out, but haven't made it yet.
Well,
I
let's
think,
make a plan. Next
I-
time we go, to Quabog, let's all have an après kite session over there.
I think this Sunday they're having like their winter beer fest or something.
Oh,
Ooh.
So I don't know. Something else to talk about. Where's everyone going on Sunday?
yeah. So Sunday,
Yeah.
I'll probably go to Woodsum.
I figured you would.
That's a 2 for me.
Hey, we talked a
I've
lot
only been to
about
Woodson
ice
once.
screws and ice. Let me show you a picture of what it looks like.
I was thinking maybe Quabog.
Oh, nice.
That's a good shot.
Yeah.
This was on Lake Winnipesaukee last year, and you can see the ice screw inside the ice.
Yeah, that's a great shot.
But what's cool about that too, Leo, which might not be obvious to everyone, is you've got the outside lines onto the ice screw so that the kite really can't fly.
There's a brake line on
Yeah.
this bar.
I
Yeah,
wrap
but
my
that's
brake
an
line
ozone.
around it.
Yeah, but that's an ozone where the brake line is to the outside lines. That's a nice
Yeah.
feature of ozone.
Yeah.
I put it on my fly surfers.
Yeah. So there's also one kite that has unique characteristics, but I don't even know if it's available anymore, which is the Peter Lynn Arc, which is the only kite that will auto zenith. So I used to, at Sandbar, put in an ice screw, clip the bar to the ice screw, go out to the kite, throw the kite up, and the kite goes straight up to the zenith and just sits there. And you can go have lunch and it'll be there 20 minutes later. But, I have 2 of them and I don't think you can find them anymore.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
We've gone for about an hour and 20 minutes.
Wow.
So I don't know if people have other stuff they want to do, or if there's anyone else had any questions that they were asking about, Philip or Adam. If you guys have anything that you were curious about that we didn't cover, Willie.
Well, what you and I slacked about this or talked about last year has anyone ever explored the big tract of Cumberland Farms on the South Shore? Being one of the few South Shore guys here, I'm gonna go check it out
Yeah,
Friday
that'd be
with
great.
snow.
And
So
the
it's a
main thing,
Big piece of land.
the main thing to look for on a spot is that, first of all, like, what is the ground cover like? It needs to be mowed grass. If it's like if it's left to the wild,
Shrubs.
it's not ever going to be covered enough. So
Yeah.
road pass is important. And then the other thing is you want to kind of look around and see, is it ground that is higher in elevation than the surrounds? Because if it's at all kind of depressed with even a slight amount of land slightly higher in the immediate surroundings, then the wind will not come in and it'll be a nightmare.
Yeah. Good point.
Where is that, Willie?
If you look at it's in Halifax. There's a giant tract of land. It's called the Cumberland IB Internet, bird sanctuary. It's still private land. I had an afternoon of snow kiting at the Weymouth Naval Air Base, which is that new, there's a sports complex there. There's another big patch of land. It was decent. So being on the South Shore, and I don't trust any of the ice around here. Enjoy when a fresh snow hits to try and find some hard ground to go on.
How about the Otis Air Force Base? Is that a possibility? Or is
Where's that?
That's on the Cape.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it could be.
They
Yeah,
never get
that's,
enough snow.
this so Saturday they might, but yeah, I don't know how to get on. I suspect the runways would be fun, but
What's the spot in Halifax you're talking about?
it's called Cumberland. What's it called here? I'm looking. That's what I've been looking at.
Oh, is
It's-
it
Or the farm at Raven. Let's see, what's it called? It's
Birds
Cumberland
and
Farms
Pond Wildlife
IBA.
Management?
if you Google it showed up as like the Cumberland, Halifax, Mass, the farm at
Yeah.
Raven Brook. It's a big piece of
It's
probably
right along Route 105, it looks like.
at Cumberland Farms IBA.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called the something bird, something or other. There's a big solar array out there. It's just a giant tract of land that's been left for birders and things.
Yeah.
So it's public land?
No, but it doesn't. Apparently, they're not too sensitive about people going on it.
Yeah, so I would love it for you. I would love for you to scout it. I totally have
Yeah.
had my eye on it myself as well. And,
Yeah.
and I looked at some photos, and my biggest concern was that they didn't mow it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go down. My kids got a basketball game there in Carver Friday night, so I'm gonna go down an hour early and check it out. That and the looks like the Bridgewater State Hospital next door has some fields, but they're potentially looks like there's some pretty significant hedgerows or rows between them. But anyway, I'll give you guys a report if I see something interesting.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, get a sense of the elevation surrounding that land and,
Yeah.
and whether it's mowed or not, and then let me know.
Yeah.
What you
Yeah.
John, thank you so much for putting this together.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you. It's
Yeah.
been great.
Thank
and,
you.
Adam, did you have any questions?
I had some, but you guys really covered them. So I really hope I'll see you out there maybe Sunday, depending how things pan out. But this is really great. So I really appreciate it.
Excellent. Good to hear.
Hope we get snow in Berwick.
Oh, right. Oh, that
Yeah,
would be
it's
fun
true.
on Sunday too.
That's a nice one. Mention that, John.
Well, there's a spot in Berwick, Maine, which is like the southernmost part of Maine. So it's about a 90-minute drive. And we have permission to fly on a sod farm. There's not much terrain, but it's nice grassy stuff. And,
Oh, yeah.
and we have a friend up there who's nice. And if we tell him we're coming, he brings out his pickup truck and he plows the road for us.
Nice.
So,
Last time we had to, to improvise.
but I
John.
don't think it's as good as Woodsum. I like Woodsum better. It has more terrain. So
There's a sod farm in Rhode Island, kind of near Point Judith.
How many
probably.
riders can Woodsum take? Like, if everyone-
not too many. Not too many.
Yeah.
Like
Might be right.
more than 3 or 4, and it gets crowded.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to find a local joint. So next time we get together, we'll tell you guys about my I have a camp up in northern Maine. It's up north of Moosehead, which is I think another great snow kiting lake. And we actually cut ice out of the lake and put it away for the winter every year. So there's I have yet to bring my snow kite gear up there because we're usually busy the whole time. But it's a good ice related activity.
So you're storing it for later refrigeration?
Yeah, we stack it up, cover it in sawdust, and then drag it out in the summer and put it in cocktails. Pretty much, that's about it.
Sounds good.
Nice.
You got to keep a tradition going, right? So, anyway, see you guys out there.
All right, bye.
Thank
Will.
you.
All right. See ya. Thanks.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye. Tatiana.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, now she turns the
Tatiana.
camera on.
Nice to see you
1 minute
guys.
before.
Sorry,
Nice to
I
see
was
you.
quiet, but I'm drawing inspiration from your stories to maybe get out there.
Yeah, on Sunday.
You coming on Sunday?
We'll see. I'm really not good in deep snow.
Oh, okay.
Oh, come on. It's not gonna be that deep. You're
No.
good.
It'll be windblown.
Maybe
to
I can
Norway
borrow
with us.
Cat's powder skis.
I have 2 now.
Great.
John and I are
Probably
in
won't fit you.
Norway.
Yeah. You should have talked about Norway, Jean. Well, Leo's the Norway pro. And I had an awesome
I wanted
time
to
there.
keep it, I wanted to keep it grounded in what's going on now.
And what's possible. And just
Yeah.
to get people started is really
Exactly.
such a nice
That was the
idea.
agenda.
Be
That was
awesome.
a great session. That'll be snow kiting 102.
That was good. Very good.
Yeah, Lee, keep us posted on and Pete on what you guys are finding.
Yeah. I
Where are
wish
you-
Bob was on this. Bob is a wealth of information. He's been great. And
I haven't even put my
really knows
skis on
Central.
yet this year.
Oh, really?
that?
That's crazy. You must be Jones in big time.
Yeah, definitely ready for this weekend.
Cool.
What are you gonna do?
I don't know. No
Drink beer.
You're gonna snow kite or you're gonna chase the POW?
I'm thinking snow kite.
Cool.
I'm thinking of Burlington for President's Day weekend. And Sandbar and Shelburne. So
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, I mean, my parents live up there, so if there's ever a weekend when it's looking like a good forecast, I'd be down to go up there. But that would be fun to get a bunch of people and do a Burlington snow kite weekend.
Cool.
yeah, I usually stayed at the Windjammer because that's where Rachel had it set up for Kite Storm. It's no great shakes, but it's perfectly simple and easy and
I like the
inexpensive.
Windjammer.
And there's great food in Burlington, good music, lots of good beer.
Nice
At
town.
the weekend.
It's a
Set it up.
really nice place to visit.
Yeah.
Almost as nice as
Lonnie-
Portland, Maine.
It's kind of like.
Not a lot of snow up in Portland, Maine this winter, though.
Oh, that's too bad. Maybe that'll change this weekend though.
Yeah.
Definitely looks
John, are
promising.
you going to Secondega this
Um,
winter? You're gonna make a crazy, like one of those trips?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go to Secondega, but I'm not planning like a trip with a house full of people like I've done in the past. Instead,
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of just go on a whim depending on the wind, and also because we're running that race. You know about that race?
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that, but that's like an individual race, right?
Yeah, so you can just go anytime you want and run the circuit and try to beat Leo's time.
Yeah, Leo's the reigning champion.
Yeah.
Is it the exact same course as last year?
Leo.
Yeah.
There's also a short course this year
That's right. We've added a short course. Yeah.
to the nearest island and back.
That course you could probably do in 15 minutes. And
How
the other
long is a
one was
long
more like
course
an hour.
That course you can do in 5 minutes.
How
It's
about the
2.5
long one? How long
miles.
did it take?
Huh?
What was your time last year, Leo?
I think
For
you
the
made
long
it
course.
45 minutes.
38 minutes and some seconds.
What was the average speed?
The distance was 14 and a half miles on my track. I don't think you can get much less. Maybe you can get 14, but then more optimal.
Yeah. So
If
I'm
you go
just
30 miles per hour on average, then you can like get 30 minutes.
okay. Yeah. That's going 30 miles an hour for a half hour straight is no easy feat on the.
You
Yeah.
go a lot faster
not.
a lot of times, but on average, it's kind of tough.
Yeah, at Ragnarok, the course is 15 miles. It's five laps, 5 hours for the winners. And there are years where 3 people finish the 5 laps. So to do it, you have to average 15 miles an hour, which sounds easy, and hardly anybody manages to do it.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it's-
Yeah, because there's slow sections where the wind doesn't blow.
yeah.
And you're going uphill at times too.
Yeah, the uphill was really a new experience for me. Like,
Yeah.
how do you do this?
I love going uphill, man. It's so much
Uphill
fun.
is easier than downhill.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
Just loop the kite.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to tell you guys, I ran into Leo at Dynarut the day before the race in Norway, and he was just there for a week of kite skiing. And Lisa and I and Leo and others went out. And the setup where Jean and Leo are going back this year is amazing. You set up your kite literally 100 feet from the house, and the house is 100 feet from the road. But there are, I don't know, 100 miles of terrain out there. So Leo and I are out there, and he's like, George, this is like kiting in a dream. As we looked out through a bunch of clouds to a hill with a kiter, with a cloud above it, with a hill beyond it, with a kiter. And like, it does look kind of like we're in kite heaven. And it was pretty amazing. And then Leo did warn me, watch out when you go down the backside of one of these hills. It is a scary experience. As you outrun your kite, have no control, and the kite is now, free falling, and when it catches a gust, it's going to fire off in whatever direction it happens to be facing.
I'm so jealous. I want to go on that trip. I've heard a lot about it.
Well, we'll
The area.
do it again next year. So.
Oh yeah.
I think they still have
Definitely.
availability.
Right. There's still space. Yeah.
Yeah. Time.
Get into your schedule. Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you
Yes,
putting
thank
this
you.
together. It's been awesome.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
it was fun.
This is the
Take
cool
Thank
care.
you.
snow kite crew.
Yeah, Jean, you should do this every year as a kickoff for the season.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
to
actually
thank
to help people
everybody.
join. It's
Totally.
a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah. I
Great
think it
to
went
see
well.
everyone.
All right.
All right.
Great to see
Take
you
care.
all.
All right. Take
Yeah.
care.
Maybe
See
we'll
ya.
see you all on Sunday.
Yeah. Sunday
ya.
morning, bright and early.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.